This is Between the Uprights.
Football is life. The rest is just details.
Here are your hosts, Joe, Matt, and Chris.
Welcome to Between the Uprights. I'm Joe, that's Matt. Chris couldn't be here today, but that doesn't mean we're not going to be giving you that great football breakdown you come here for day in, day out, all the time, 24/7, 365. But first, before we get into all of that great football action, please hit that like and subscribe button for me. It means a lot to us right now. We're just getting this thing going, and we want to keep putting out the content that you want to see. So hit that like and subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. Now, Deshaun Watson was finally starting to look good. Things were starting to click in this game, and it all comes to an end for him. Ruptured Achilles, it is confirmed. And it makes you wonder, is this the last we're going to see of Deshaun Watson? Now, the contract obviously is going to keep him on the roster. But if another quarterback starts to perform, this might finally be the nail in the coffin that Deshaun Watson ends up like in a Brock Osweiler sort of way where he's just getting paid tons of money but riding the pine because they're better without him. This is finally an out for the Cleveland Browns to play somebody else. But Matt, I want to go to you on this one. Is this the last we're going to see of Deshaun Watson?
I think it is. I mean, listen, if it is the end of Deshaun Watson, like what a crazy, wild career that this guy has had. Like he is going to, whenever 10 years from now, when that 30 for 30 comes out, like I'm going to be locked in. That's going to be like a Last Dance type 30 for 30. Like that's how good it's going to be because Deshaun Watson's story, it's going to be a completely opposite side of the spectrum, but it's going to be an insane 30 for 30 that nobody, like things are going to come out that you never thought were going to come out. Maybe you didn't want to know came out. But it's going to be insane. So Deshaun Watson, I do think it is the end for him. And listen, you go back to his college career. I was going back to his college career, looking up his college career and stuff like that. And he actually tore an ACL in college. So he tore an ACL in college. He played a game on a torn ACL versus South Carolina in college. So his college career was storied. I mean, his second to last year, they go to the national championship game. They lose to Alabama. His last year, he wins the national championship game-winning touchdown at the buzzer against Alabama. Then he gets drafted 12th overall to the Houston Texans, obviously behind Mitch Trubisky and Patrick Mahomes. And I know for me, when Deshaun Watson got drafted, I was like, I think he should have got drafted above both of those guys. Obviously, in hindsight, now that was wrong with Mahomes. But I thought he should have got drafted above both of those guys just because of what I saw from him in college. He had that dog. He just knew how to lead a team. He gave you that feeling where if the game was on the line, he's going to come through. And that's what I like in my quarterbacks. When the moment means the most, they're going to come through. And that's what Deshaun Watson gave me. Fast forward to the NFL. He's having an unbelievable rookie season with the Houston Texans. He was going off in his rookie year with the Texans. Then he tears his other ACL. So now he's got two ACL injuries that he's had, one in college, one in the NFL. Then his next 3 years with the Texans, you look at his numbers, those 3 years with the Texans, dude's a top 5 quarterback. Like he's a legitimate top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He was balling out with the Houston Texans. Then obviously we get to what happens after that, which is beforehand, he asked for the trade, right? He asked for a trade because the Houston Texans weren't, obliging him with the contract. They didn't want to pay him. And then right after he asked for the trade, that's when however many 100 of those allegations came out about Deshaun Watson and everything went to shit, right? So he misses that year because of all the allegations. He misses 10 games of the next season with a suspension from all of the allegations. And then he goes back, he gets traded to the Browns. Right? He's traded to the Browns. You look at his career arc, there's a clear split with Deshaun Watson. In Houston, top 5 quarterback. With Cleveland, one of the worst quarterbacks in football. Like if you look at his Pro Football Reference page, he is amazing with Houston, terrible with the Cleveland Browns. And his first 6 games after he was suspended, terrible. Then he comes back the next year. They're 5-1, but he's playing horrible. They're basically getting by because of the defense. And then he hurts his shoulder. He breaks his throwing shoulder. This year he comes back from that injury and he tears his Achilles after playing horrible. So now you have a quarterback who relies a lot on his legs, already with a torn ACL in college to his left leg. And in the NFL, he tears a right ACL. And then he hurts his throwing shoulder, a major throwing shoulder injury where he's out for the season. And now he tears his right Achilles. So you have a quarterback who's not only performing horribly, but he has a storied injury history with all sorts of major injuries going on. He has one of the worst off-field resumes maybe of all time for anyone ever. And he has a massive guaranteed contract that nobody wants to pay. So I think eventually what we're going to see is Deshaun Watson's just going to get cut. They're going to pull a Russell Wilson from the Broncos. They're just going to say, go away, take your money. We don't want to see you anymore. And listen, with everything that's gone on with Deshaun Watson, if there was any time to boo an injury from a Browns fan's perspective, I understand why you do it. I still don't think they should have. I still think that's out of bounds. I don't think you should do it, but I understand why they did it. After paying everything that you paid for him, after him doing everything that he's done, if there's one guy to boo, it is him. I still don't approve of it, but that being said, listen, Deshaun Watson's story is absolutely insane. And at this point, like, who's going to sign him to be a starting quarterback? He's too bad to be a starting quarterback. Nobody's going to think about fixing him. He brings too much drama to be a backup quarterback. We see that, teams want quarterbacks like Chase Daniel who aren't going to have any drama or anything associated with them as their backup. So who's going to want Deshaun Watson? I think we could have easily just seen Deshaun Watson's last play as an NFL quarterback. So yeah, I think it's over for Deshaun. I don't see him coming back from this. I just don't see any way.
I mean, you said a lot of the things I was going to say. Honestly, I already said Brock Osweiler. That was a terrible contract. No, by no means should Houston have paid that man that much money. Cleveland, I don't know what they were thinking when they did this. I mean, they knew about all the allegations. They knew all these things were happening, and even right now, he has another case that he just settled in the same vein. The NFL's investigating, but he's not on the NFL's still investigating it. They don't know if they're going to put him on the exempt list. We don't know how that's going to look. There's a lot going on right now. And the only clause that they have in that contract is if he gets in another off the field altercation that, they end up suspending him for, they can void that contract. And never should anyone wish ill will upon somebody, from injury or anything else, off the field issues or something like that. But they'd be lying if they weren't praying that this ends in an NFL suspension for him, so that way they could get out of this money. Because you said cut him. I looked at the contract. The next 2 years, if they cut him next year, it's $118 million dead cap hit. They cut him the year after, it's $96 million dead cap hit. It's almost like they just keep him on the roster and you sit his ass on the bench because that's what you got to do. And then possibly he gets medically retired and you can kind of settle on something possibly. But even then, you're still paying this man. Like you made the mistake. You thought you were getting this great quarterback, and now you're kind of wondering, was Billy O'Brien and D-Hop the only reasons that Deshaun Watson was good? I mean, they had Amari Cooper. They've had talent now, wide receiver core, and Njoku is a great tight end. The offensive line hasn't been bad. They've had great running backs. I mean, so I just don't understand how we saw this downfall of Deshaun Watson outside of the fact that he was out of football for a year and a half, 2 years now, essentially. And he never got back to who he was. I mean, they always say like it's like riding a bike. You just get on and pedal and, it all comes back to you. Well, that might be true in day-to-day life. But when you're out there with physical athletes and every year, these guys are getting bigger and quicker and stronger. And it's just, you're not able to keep up, right? You have to get that mental rep clock going. And he hasn't even been on the field a lot to really do that. Because like you said, he gets suspended, comes back, shoulder injury. Comes back, Achilles rupture. And, before that, it was another ACL tear. So it's consistently, we're seeing these things, where it finally just caught up to him where he couldn't keep up anymore. And it sucks, no one, like I said, no one wishes ill will on somebody. But to be fair, I'm going to kind of say it, Deshaun Watson off the field's kind of a douchebag. I mean,
yeah, it's karma.
You don't have 100, he's just really not that intelligent, puts himself in bad situations. I don't know what it is, but this was, from a contractual standpoint, the worst contract to ever. There's nothing close. I mean, This was a historic guaranteed money amount that made him the highest paid quarterback in the league, coming off of a 1-year suspension with multiple off the field issues. Like, this is the worst contract I've seen, in all honesty. And I want to say Brock Osweiler, but I mean, almost Jamarcus Russell level. You remember the stories about Jamarcus Russell. The offensive coordinator said they would send him a DVD with plays on it. Yep. DVD would be blank, and he'd come in and they'd be like, which one do you want to run? Oh, coach, I can run them all. It's a blank fucking DVD.
Mm-hmm.
You knew at that point that he wasn't it. Cleveland should have known before they even got there. That wasn't it. I mean, and now you look at Baker Mayfield, he's probably going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's probably going to the playoffs with the Bucks. He took you to your first playoff game in fucking 20 plus years, 30 plus, whatever it was. And you let him go because you thought Deshaun Watson was the answer. And then Jacoby Brissett has played better than him when he was there. Joe Flacco played better than him when he was there. And you let them both walk. And then you have Jameis Winston, who you decide to reduce to a third string quarterback behind, Thompson Robinson, who's
DTR,
now probably going to IR as well because he's got a hand injury, and you ended up playing Jameis anyway. So, I mean, the best case scenario for the Browns, Jameis Winston comes in with Nick Chubb back, with Njoku back, with, sort of the players that they have there, and they ball out. You're not going to the playoffs, but at least you have something going on, right? Your only best option to be anything outside of mediocre until after 2027, when you can actually get rid of Deshaun Watson's contract and his cap hit. I mean, there's nothing there for you. You're going the only way you get better in that situation is you absolutely have to draft. You have to hit on every single draft pick. Every single draft pick has to be a hit. And I don't know if they have it in them to do that. They've never proven that they have that in them to do that. I mean, this is bad, and it only keeps getting worse for Browns fans. And if there was a fan base that I feel sorry for, it's the Cleveland Browns.
It's atrocious. I mean, what do you do as a Browns fan right now? I mean, you have to stick with your team, but what do you even say? Because I guarantee you the last, however many years Browns fans have been like, yo, can we get Deshaun out of here? We don't want him either, but you kind of have to, when he's on the field, you got to root for him, but you don't want him to be your quarterback. So you're in the worst possible position if you're Browns fans. And I'm glad you brought up Baker Mayfield too, Joe. They kicked Baker Mayfield to the curb. They left Baker Mayfield for dead. Sure enough, Baker Mayfield's in Tampa Bay, probably one of the top 5 MVP candidates right now in the NFL, absolutely balling the hell out in Tampa Bay, and you're stuck with one of the 5 worst quarterbacks, and I'm being generous saying one of the 5 worst quarterbacks in Deshaun Watson. So yeah, so it's either what's one of the 2 worst quarterbacks. So, I mean, listen, I don't want to question – I'm not questioning Deshaun Watson's toughness because, like I said, he's come back from crazy injuries. Like I said, in college, he played with a torn ACL. He had another torn ACL. He had a fractured shoulder. Now he's got an Achilles. I think physically he'll be able to come back, but mentally, we haven't seen him the same since Houston. Mentally, after everything that went down, after all the allegations, after the all the drama, he has not been the same since Houston, and he's never, ever going to be a starting quarterback again. There's no way that anybody's ever going to start Deshaun Watson again. So it's over for him. I don't see him coming back from it.
Me either, man. And it's sad to see, like we said, it started so bright and it ends so bad.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.